The rain came down like shards of glass against the windshield, blurring the world into a gray sea of loneliness. Inside a sleek black car parked along a deserted countryside road, Ethan Voss, the youngest self-made CEO of Voss Dynamics, stared blankly through the downpour. The storm outside couldn't drown the noise in his head, the echo of boardroom arguments, his late father's disappointed voice, and the hollow truth that success had cost him everything human. He had just signed the biggest merger of his life, yet all he felt was emptiness. No family, no warmth, just the dull hum of rain and regret. Then came the knock, a soft, trembling tap at the glass. At first he thought it was a branch caught by the wind, but when he turned he froze. There, drenched and shivering, stood a young woman clutching a small child wrapped in a thin blanket. Her lips quivered as she tried to speak through the rain, her voice barely reaching him through the glass. "Please, my child is sick. I need help. Before we go deeper, if you believe kindness can still change lives and second chances can rewrite destinies, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to Kindness Journal." Every story here reminds us that compassion still exists, even in the unlikeliest moments. Ethan's instinct told him to drive off. People faked emergencies all the time. He had been warned about scams, especially in remote areas. But something about the woman's eyes, those desperate, pleading eyes, made his hand freeze on the ignition. He lowered the window slightly, and the cold rain rushed in. "There's a clinic a few miles back," he said, his tone firm, distant. "They're closed," she cried out, her voice breaking. "Please, sir, he's burning up. I don't know what to do." She looked down at the little boy's face. His skin was pale, lips bluish, breath shallow. Without thinking further, Ethan pushed open the door and motioned her in. The woman gasped, tears mixing with rain as she slid into the car. The child's faint moan filled the air, fragile and heartbreaking. Ethan turned up the heater, his fingers tightening on the steering wheel. "Hold on," he said, stepping on the accelerator. The car roared to life, splashing through puddles as they sped toward the city. Her name was Mara Linwood, 26 years old, a single mother working double shifts at a roadside diner. Her son, Noah, had caught a fever 2 days earlier, but she couldn't afford to miss work or medicine. When the boy's condition worsened, she ran out of the diner during her night shift, hoping to find a car passing by. For hours, none had stopped, until now. As Ethan drove, her story unfolded in pieces between quiet sobs. Each word pierced him deeper than he expected. He had grown up in wealth, yet never knew his mother's embrace. She died when he was 10. His father, a titan of business, raised him to be ruthless. No mercy, no weakness. But sitting next to this trembling mother who would walk through storms for her child, he felt the raw ache of something he'd lost long ago, love that asked for nothing in return. When they reached the hospital, Ethan jumped out first, carrying Noah in his arms while Mara stumbled behind. Doctors rushed to take the child, and within minutes, Noah was being treated for severe pneumonia. Mara collapsed onto a bench, shaking uncontrollably. Ethan fetched her a blanket from the nurse's station without a word. Hours passed, the rain stopped. Dawn crept through the windows, soft and golden. Noah's condition stabilized, and the doctor assured Mara he would recover. She wept in relief, whispering prayers. Ethan stood quietly by the door, watching her. Something inside him, something long buried under ambition, began to stir. Mara turned to him. "I don't know how to thank you," she said, her voice fragile. "If you hadn't stopped." Ethan shook his head. "You don't need to thank me," he murmured. Anyone would have done the same, but deep down he knew that wasn't true. Most wouldn't have stopped. Most, including himself, before tonight, would have kept driving. Over the next few days, Ethan found himself returning to the hospital. He told himself it was to check on the boy, to make sure the bills were paid. But each time he saw Mara reading by Noah's bedside, her hair still damp from her morning rush to the bus stop. He felt drawn to something unfamiliar, peace. One morning he brought her breakfast. She hesitated before accepting it, embarrassed. "You've already done enough," she said softly. "I wanted to." Ethan replied, considerate, a friend's gesture. That word, friend, felt strange in his mouth. He hadn't used it in years. They talked more as days passed. She told him about the diner, about the landlord threatening eviction, about the nights she sang Noah to sleep pretending everything was fine. He told her, for the first time in his life, about his father's harsh expectations, the endless boardrooms, the empty penthouse that echoed with silence. "You're lonely," she said gently one evening, watching him stare out the hospital window. "You have everything, but you're alone." Ethan didn't answer, but her words lingered long after he left. When Noah was discharged, Ethan offered to drive them home. Mara's apartment was a small, crumbling building on the city's edge. The walls were thin, the ceiling leaked, and yet inside there was laughter. She brewed tea for him, and Noah showed him a drawing of the man who saved us. Ethan felt something break inside, a quiet, painful warmth spreading through the cracks of his cold heart. That night, as he sat alone in his luxury apartment, he stared at the untouched whiskey on his table and thought of the boy's smile. For the first time in years, he put the glass down and picked up his phone instead. The next morning, Ethan called his HR department and made a request that shocked his assistants. Sponsor a medical aid program for single mothers in the city. He used his own funds quietly, with no press release, no publicity. It was the first decision he made not for profit, but for purpose. He visited Mara and Noah again, helping them move to a better home. "You don't owe me anything," he told her when she protested. "Just promise me you'll keep that little boy smiling." She smiled through tears. "And what about you, Ethan? When will you start smiling again?" Weeks passed into months. Ethan found himself showing up at the diner on weekends, sitting quietly at a corner table. Mara would serve him coffee, always with that gentle smile that seemed to light up even the dullest morning. They talked about everything and nothing, the kind of conversations that heal unseen wounds. One evening, as sunlight painted the windows gold, Noah ran to Ethan, laughing, clutching a crayon drawing. "Uncle Ethan, look, we're in the park," he said proudly. In the picture, 3 stick figures held hands beneath a rainbow. Ethan looked at the drawing for a long time, his throat tightening. "It's perfect," he whispered. He didn't know when it happened, when the loneliness stopped feeling like a curse and began to fade into quiet belonging. All he knew was that one rainy night had changed everything. Months later, as spring arrived, Ethan organized a small community event, a charity day for families struggling through hard times. Mara helped with the arrangements, her laughter echoing across the park as children played and volunteers served food. Noah, healthy and bright, ran around handing balloons to other kids. Ethan stood at a distance, watching them. The air was filled with sunlight and laughter, 2 things his life had long been missing. When Mara came to stand beside him, he smiled faintly. "You changed, Ethan," she said softly. He turned to her, his eyes warm for the first time in years. "No," he replied. "You reminded me who I was supposed to be." As the crowd cheered behind them, Ethan realized something profound, that sometimes the universe doesn't send you people to fix you, but to help you feel again. And maybe, just maybe, stopping his car that night wasn't fate. It was grace. A lonely man found a reason to live again, and a desperate mother found someone who believed in her when the world didn't. If this story touched your heart, please like, share, and subscribe to Kindness Journal. Your support helps more people experience stories that remind us kindness still wins, no matter how cold the world gets. And before you go, tell us in the comments, would you have stopped your car that night? Because sometimes one small act of compassion can rewrite two destinies forever,